The Kansas City Royals just aren't quite clicking yet this season. What can the team look like whenever they do start to click? How can they get on the right track? And when is it too soon to panic in Kansas City? Plus, let's take a look ahead this week on what's on tap for the Royals against the White Sox and the Yankees, all coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams every day. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into the Kansas City Royals season so far. They're just not clicking quite yet. How can they make it so? Plus, preview the week ahead for the Kansas City Royals. What's on tap this week as the Royals look to get clicking again. On tomorrow's show, we're going to, which will be Wednesday, we're going to recap game one of the White Sox series. And then we're also going to talk with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres for a bonus podcast about the City Connect uniforms, Eric Hosmer, and the baseball season in general. And then, of course, we'll recap every game of the White Sox series, preview the Yankees series, recap every game of that series, and so on and so forth right here on Locked On Royals. Plus, we're also going to give a grade to every player on the Royals roster so far. So send me your grades for the Royals, either in the comment section below on YouTube or on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Today's show, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over at Athletic Greens. We'll get into more of that coming up. And I do want to tell you, a lot's happening, right? So we have Locked On Royals every single day. We have a Locked On MLB every single day. Also, it's draft season in the NFL this week, and most of you are Kansas City Chiefs fans. So check out the Locked On Chiefs podcast for that information. Locked On Chiefs and the Kansas City Chiefs are heading into a very important draft for the foundation and future of the Chiefs. So that will be very fun to see them try to restock and reshape their franchise in a way that we hope leads to many a more championship runs. Also, if you're like me and you've slacked on your NFL draft prep but still want to watch the main event, you can go check out the Ultimate Mock Draft. What that is a special production. Okay, so here's what we got on the Ultimate Mock Draft presented by Locked On Podcast Network. We have every local expert selecting draft picks for their teams, right? That is going to be a ton of fun. But it's not just our local experts. It's also our national experts like Brian Peacock, also a former NFL scout in Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson podcast. There's also former NFL/AFL cornerback Eric Cocker and Ryan Tracy of Locked On NFL Draft, Locked On Chiefs, and Locked On NFL in general. It's going to be a ton of fun. Again, you get insight from people who've been in war rooms, in scouting rooms, plus our local experts. Every pick is up 1 through 32, so you can go back and listen to everything that's happened so far, right? With the Ultimate Mock Draft from picks 1 to 32. They're going to be making selections and then grading them at the big table with the national experts, local experts, and former players, former scouts. So that's important for you all to go check out. And Thursday, when the draft actually happens, a live studio show on Locked On NFL YouTube channel and other various places that you can find it. I'll be retweeting out those links on the Locked On Royals Twitter feed, so go check out that on Thursday because, again, it's a very important draft for the Chiefs. And so that'll be a Locked On live show in studio at WFAA in Dallas, Texas. So we've done that for the NFL, for the NBA draft, and now it's going to be for the NFL draft. And let me tell you, dude, those are fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Those are fantastic shows whenever they're live and in person. So make sure you go check those out. But the Royals so far just aren't clicking. And we got a glimpse of them clicking at times this season. But in totality, the Royals have not hit their full stride yet, right? Entering that White Sox, game, game one, they had 5 wins on the year and 9 losses, and that will put them in the basement of the Central. Now, the Central, like a lot of divisions right now in baseball, but specifically to the Central, it's just topsy-turvy, right? The difference in first place and last place is 2.5 games, which is nothing in baseball, especially as you play these division rivals as the Royals are doing right now with the White Sox and the Twins are doing right now with the Tigers. It's nothing to have these things flip around. So the Royals are by no means running out of time, given the length of the season, given it's a 162 game stretch. But again, you can not win a division or win a playoff spot in April, but you can certainly lose one. And as we creep into May here, you want to be at or a game better or worse than 500 in May. That's kind of where your first watermark is. And of course, anything better than that is great. But you don't want to enter May chasing 5 games under 500, chasing 6 games under 500. You want to keep yourself right there after April, which is even a shorter April this year, of course, because of the lockout. It did not start on April 1st. It started on April 7th for opening day. So the Royals have time, but you don't want to bury yourself. And this is going to be an incredible stretch here where you play the White Sox, who are projected to be a first-place team. You play the Yankees, who are projected to be a first-place team. You play the Cardinals, who are projected to be a first-place team. And you have no off days until after that Cardinals series and before a crucial Baltimore series, because simply, again, it's hard to sweep in baseball. You simply have to win that Baltimore series. You have to take 2 or 3 from Baltimore, if not sweep in Baltimore, if you want to be competitive this year, which is the goal. The goal is to be competitive in a borderline playoff team. And to do that, you have to beat the O's. So it's going to be a very crucial week here coming up, 2 weeks here coming up as we start April. I should say as we close April, start May. So the Royals need to start clicking. They've split a series against Cleveland. They quote unquote lost a series to the Cardinals, but again, it was only 1 game, so it's hard to call that a series. They lost the series to the Tigers because that Sunday game got postponed, and they won a series against Minnesota and then got swept by Seattle. So they've split and won a series apiece, and then they've lost every other series. This is a critical series with Chicago because the Chicago White Sox are supposed to be a first-place ball club, but they've lost 7 straight games entering game 1. And eventually they're going to break out, but you don't want to be the team that they break out against. So how can the Royals get clicking, and why is clicking so important in baseball? We're going to talk about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Athletic Greens. Folks, Athletic Greens is incredible. It's a lifestyle-friendly option for you because if you're eating keto or paleo or vegan or dairy-free, gluten-free, it only contains 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anythings, while still tasting good. It supports better sleep and recovery. It supports mental clarity and alertness. It's a great thing for you as Athletic Greens. It has the best of the best products with the best of the best and latest science with consistent product iterations and kind of helping for the best iterations in third-party testing. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper for you than your cold brew habits. It's cheaper for you than getting a cold brew or getting a coffee. It's just less than $3 a day for you. And it's cheaper than even investing in all the different supplements that you need. This is an all-in-one nutrition insurance. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews, recommended by professional athletes, trusted by leading healthcare professionals, including Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervins. You need to check them out today at Athletic Greens because AG1 is where you want to be. Free 1-year supply and immune support vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. That's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the daily nutritional insurance today. AG1. Check them out today. I want to tell you right now, my good friends over at the Lockdown Now podcast. The Lockdown Now podcast is a very fun podcast, folks, because look, it's impossible. I don't like to use that word a lot, but it is impossible to watch every single baseball game from the day before. You look at the schedule today. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You have 15 games on today, barring weather. And all those games spanning an hour, 3, 4 hours. You just can't watch all 15, even if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens in your office like I do. You just can't watch all of them. You can't. Okay. What you can do though is check out Locked On Now on the Locked On MLB YouTube page. Locked On Now podcast is a breakdown of every game from the night before from our local experts covering every team. So you can get a really good in-depth synopsis of the game from our local experts every morning in about 11, 15 minutes on every single game. So go check it out. 11, 15 minutes and you get to hear out every single game. So go check it out over there, Locked On Now on the Locked On MLB YouTube page. And folks, thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Royals baseball. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Now podcast and subscribe for free across all platforms on the Locked On Royals YouTube page so you never miss an episode. It is very, very fun talking Royals baseball every single day. But the Royals just aren't clicking right now. And what do I mean by that? Well, you had the long scoreless streak out of the bullpen, but the hitting never came around. Then you had the hitting come around, and your pitching staff let you down. Blowing the game on Sunday in the extra inning period, extra inning stint, blowing the game out of the bullpen on Sunday. That's kind of the thing this year for the Royals so far. Now, you can go in more depth and say, Whit Merrifield looks like he doesn't want to be here, and Mondesi's gotten off to a bad start. Carlos Santana is awful this year, and so on down the list. But you take everything and compile it all into a big, big blender, right? And you blend it all up into a smoothie. What's the dominant flavor in that smoothie, right? To me, it's just the fact that they're not clicking because individually they've had spurts. They've had those 6-run outbursts, 7-run outbursts, and then those are the days your bullpen and pitching staff can't get it done. They've had days where the bullpen pitching staff hold you to 2, 3, 4 runs of the opponent, and your offense produces 0 or 1 run. They just can't get on the same page where they just have a dominant game from each side and pick themselves up and really work together. And so you're hoping to see that today against the White Sox. I think you will see that today against the White Sox. And they need to just get back on track because they're right there. And if they can pick it up and if they can start to click, I think you can see a really good baseball team in Kansas City that has a formula to win games. It's going to take these young pitchers taking a step. It's going to take that bullpen to continue to be good. Well, you have a formula of Amir Garrett, Brent, Snamont, Barlow in that bullpen, and your young pitching staff that, look, if they don't take a step forward, this rebuild is over in a bad way where you got to restart. All right. Brady Singer's been nice out of the bullpen, although it's a weird scenario seeing him in the bullpen. This lineup on paper should not be one of the worst in baseball. On paper, it should be good. Nikki Lopez has been a question mark entering this year. Can he duplicate last year's success? Yeah, he's done that. He's duplicated last year's success. Whit Merrifield's supposed to be a really good hitter. We haven't seen it so far this year. But Benintendi's red hot. Salvador Perez is remaining good, and last year was at an MVP level. Carlos Santana's been bad. You've even gotten a bounce back from Hunter Dozier, who's been solid. Bobby Witt Jr. is really heating up right now. Mondesi, again, not good. Michael A. Taylor, he provides enough defensively to make up for it, but again, is not a great hitter in your lineup by any means, and had his career year at the plate last year. But on paper, this lineup should not be as unproductive and uninspiring as they have ended up being. So if this team can start clicking, they're going to be closer to a wild card spot as you have the expanded playoffs than not. It's just a matter of if they'll be able to click and if they'll be able to put it all together. But it comes down to that starting pitching. Carlos Hernandez has been good for a fifth starter. Chris Buich has not even been competitive. Zach Greinke's been solid. Brad Keller, outside of his last start, has been really good. And then you've had Daniel Lynch, who's, raw numbers hasn't been great, but he's given you some things on Baseball Savant to look forward to. It's still going to be an uphill battle for this Royals team to get the playoffs. And to me, the playoffs is not the goal, but the goal should be not this also. They're somewhere in the middle of this where it's been uncompetitive at bats and, non-competitive games and the playoffs. And I think that you're going to find that middle here soon. But it's going to take beating up on good quality teams. Again, this stretch is not going to be easy. White Sox for 3, Yankees for 3, Cardinals for 3. Then you play Baltimore, who's a bad team. You play Texas, who is a fun team, but I don't think is going to take that huge leap. Colorado, a fun team, but I don't think it's going to take that huge leap. That's a huge road swing, though, from Baltimore, off day, Arlington, right into Colorado, and then right into a stretch at Kauffman Stadium where you play the White Sox and the Twins, and then you play the D-backs, who are a fun team, but I don't think it's going to be a great team, and then another series with the Twins on the road to close out the month of May. It's going to be May, to me, that decides this. If you enter Cleveland and you play that June 1st game and your record looks about the same win percentage-wise and the at-bats look the same, defeatist-wise, I don't see how you recover from it. I just don't. And they might have a fun, fun August to give you that hope again, but look, you just can't fall for the tricks anymore, honestly. If they have a terrible season, but then have a very fun August, you can't fall for that anymore. That's just who this team's going to be, and it's not going to be good, right? So the Royals are going to have to define themselves to end out this month and to start next month. They're going to have to define themselves one way or the other. Either they're just bad and you no longer should hype yourself up, or you no longer should make excuses, or no longer should find the positive, or they're going to turn it around early and be more consistent this year from start to finish and be a team that you can envision a playoff appearance for next year. Because to me, next year is either we are locked all in lockstep, organization top to bottom and fan base top to bottom, in a lockstep of next year is the year you go to the playoffs, or next year needs to be the year that you reset again and you're the worst team in baseball and you just feel the non-competitive roster. You try your hardest to get to the best lottery odds and you just forget about whatever wave you thought you had. Besides Bobby Witt Jr., you tear it all down. And of course, besides Salvador Perez. And so, to me, that's what should be on the line right now. What should be on the line right now is if this core gets to stay together and become a playoff caliber team next year, or if you give up on everybody except for Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez. And to me, I wouldn't give up on Benintendi, but I wouldn't give up on Nikki Lopez. But outside of those handful of guys, everyone else you clean house with and just restart and you just redo this entire rebuild. So that is a big, big feat that's on the line right now for Kansas City. But I do want to tell you right now, my good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. Folks, they have 100% chocolate on the outside. They are fantastic. You want to check them out today. Built Bar has 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You compare that to a candy bar, which typically has about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and a dozen net carbs. My favorite part about Built Bar is that they have so many amazing flavors, from mint brownie to peanut butter to coconut and double chocolate and coconut almond, white chocolate cookies and cream, normal cookies and cream, everything you can ask for at Built.com. Promo code LOCK15 gets you 15% off your next order. So go check them out today, Built.com. Promo code LOCK15, 15% off of your next order. Make sure you check them out for today because they're a protein bar, but it tastes like a candy bar. They're great pre-workout or post-workout, or even as a meal replacement or a snack. Check them out today, Built.com. Promo code LOCK15, 15% off of your next order. We are back on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you for listening to Locked On Royals. Make your second listen to Locked On MLB podcast because it's a daily podcast as well, talking about the MLB past, present, and future. And also, folks, make sure you come back for our recap of the White Sox game. We'll go in depth on game 1, preview game 2, and so on and so forth. We're also going to have this week grading every single player on the roster, a crossover with Javier Reyes, a preview of the Yankees series, and then, of course, Yankee recaps every single game. And it's just going to be hitting the ground running here. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast from to Locked On Royals. And until then, we'll be sure to have you check out Locked On MLB, Locked On Chiefs. And if you're an NBA fan, you want to check out Locked On Thunder as well. I hear that host is really, really good. But again, let me know where you fall on this for the Royals. What has this season so far been for you grade wise overall? And also, do you agree with me that this year has to be a defining year where you either define that this rebuild has been a total bust and you got to restart, or you define that this rebuild has been a success and you can go for the playoffs next year? What are you feeling for the rest of this long season? The rest of this long season. And we'll be here every step of the way. Until then, be good and be good to one another.